also going to show off a couple of other small business brands, one being Outlaw Crappie Poles, the other one being State Line Bait Company, and obviously the Immaculate Tackle. Just try to set this down so you guys can kind of see. Flip my seat down. There's basically a boat lift behind me. The fish are kind of hanging in the shade. Let's see if we can get a few. There's just a little guy. Choked it, so it's way in the mouth. Way in there. We need some tools. What I'm trying to do is trying to flip it into the shaded areas. Seems like that's where a lot of the crappies are kind of stacked up and feeding. This is that Outlaw Crappie Poles rod right here, 7-foot medium light. A little better fish, not a giant. Whoop. Popped them off. Too much dicking around. That one's probably 11 inches. But all I'm doing is just basically flipping it down into the shade and just letting it fall. And then the fish are kind of hanging down near the bottom. Not great. So let's show you that. So this one is probably right at 10 inches, I would assume, which is a good eater in my world. We're going to put this one back, and then I'll show you the bait, talk about the rod real quick. There we go. So just a little chunker. So the dream jig from Immaculate Tackle, what is it? We have a patented hook with an eye that is much larger, okay? So number one, it's very easy to get your line through to tie. Now pay no attention to this color, or you can pay attention to the color because it will be on our website soon, and it's a limited run, custom painted by me. It's basically to celebrate the 4th of July, our 250th year. It's the Dream Jig. That's how I started this brand. That's why the first shape is the Dream. What it has is it's got that large eye that's easy to tie. It's flat-sided, so it's very easy to hold, okay, when you pinch it to put your plastics on, okay? So this is the State Line Bait Company Baby Stinger, I believe. Yeah, Baby Stinger. So I bought this kit from them down at a show in Tennessee. That's his monkey milk color. And I'm actually just kind of pulling that knot back towards horizontal. But honestly, today, I don't know if it would really matter. Let's try it anyways and see what's going on. But this is a size 6 Dream Jig, 1/32 of an ounce, or I'm sorry, 1/16 of an ounce. And that bait is about 1 3/4 long. Another nice thing about that Dream Jig is if you're going to do dock shooting, which I might have to in a little bit, is it holds really good for loading it up to shoot it underneath your structure. This is the Outlaw Crappie Poles Patriot, 7-foot medium light. How fitting I'm using a rod called Patriot right before the 4th of July. Let's go ahead and get a couple more. That was my knee that just popped standing up. I want to discuss a couple things with you real quick while I'm doing this. One of them would be the rod. Now, this is a 7 foot medium light, so it's got a nice spongy tip to it a little bit, but it's very sensitive. So even though it's got a little softer action, it's very sensitive. You can feel it in the reel seat. 4 pound line, I don't really believe you need much heavier than that unless you're really, really, really in some heavy cover. Then maybe jump up to 6, possibly 8 pound. This is just monofilament line. The bait, what you saw me doing there was basically just pushing after I catch a fish and you get pants. This jig does not have a bait keeper, but that's good because then I can just continue to push that bait up and keep using it without shredding that end. That's what's nice about a collarless or not having that bait keeper on there. Just push that bait back up on the jig itself. Now, one thing I do a little bit of guiding, but I want to explain to you is a lot of times people reel too far up when they catch a fish. See if I could just blindly do this. I doubt it will work, but I see a lot of people, they get excited, they set the hook on a fish, they start bringing it in, and they reel almost all the way up to the tip top guide, which is something you don't really want to do. You want to usually load the rod up and flip that fish into the boat when you have about the same amount of line as the rod is long. So I usually reel up to about that 7 foot mark and then it's lift the rod and then the fish came right to me. I'll jump up and maybe see if I can center. Now the wind kind of turned me a little bit. Maybe I can get you a good look as to what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to go into the shaded side. Give it a flip. Sorry, that wind just keeps kicking left and right. Try this again. Tearing them up a little here. Fortunately, I'm getting a little bit of like the line is tightening a little bit in the wind, giving me a little bit more bow than I would really like. Try to keep my rod low a little bit on this one. See if I can do it this time. A little better fish, probably pushing that 11-inch mark by a dollar. See, right about there. That's exactly what you want to do. So if you see that rod is a 7 foot rod, I just put slack in there and my jig is right at the butt end. As you can see, that fish basically came straight to me, which is what you were trying to shoot for right there. And now I'll try to do it the wrong way to explain what I usually see from people, but that's a good fish. This is, let's go ahead and measure it once. Let's grab the buckboard. There she is. This is an 11-inch crappie, just over 11 and 11 and a quarter. So good fish. I'll probably keep that one for a table fare. And now I'll go and show you what I see a lot of times with people. They get a little too excited and reel too far up. That's usually where you have a mistake. They'll get excited, they'll start reeling up the fish, they'll get, oh my God, I got the fish. And they'll get too close up. And then what happens, especially if it's a bigger fish, you start to crane it up. You got to think, now I got to get that fish in the boat. And a lot of times it's kind of tough because the good thing that's when it's hook deep. But if they're hooked right in the lip and you lift up and have to crane technique that fish over, then the rips out of their mouth. Now you also got to think this. I got to now manage this fish with less line. That's where you break rod tips. So you're better off having that fish come right here. Then you can just put the rod in your legs like that. Hold the fish to unhook it. Yeah, this one was not going to get off. That is why. Then you got your crappie. I'm noticing that I think I've caught enough off the side of this boat lift that some of the fish are starting to slide a little bit more that way into the wind, which is a little bit challenging for me because I have to bend the line. I flip out, there's a bow. There's a bow in my line going this way, which is challenging. That's why I've missed a couple of those fish, just because of I wasn't able to get my bait exactly where I wanted. And when the fish finally bit, I had so much flow in my line that my hook set had to be a little bit different. Yeah, chowing. Yeah. So again, just to recap this little live that I did, a lot of crappie poles, 7-foot medium light, 4-pound Berkeley Trilene XL. That's what happens to be on here. That's the Abu Garcia Max Pro, now discontinued. They have a different model out. I'm not a big fan of any reel. I just feel they hold mine. Hopefully, have a good drag and are smooth. Dream Jig size 6, 1/16 of an ounce. I do have it in the light version as well, which is a 1/32 ounce. Otherwise, if you're going to go smaller on the baits, if it wasn't so windy today, I would use the size 8 Dream Jig, which is a 1/32 of an ounce. And then the bait was State Line Bait Company's Baby Stinger. Big fan of the tiny stingers, but today they are chowing, so I upsized just a little bit and trying to match the hatch. I think that's what's going on here. I could probably go a smidge bigger, but they're definitely liking this one. So fairly new to the YouTube live, so I'm gonna have to end this one somehow. Hit the X button, but anyways, go ahead, subscribe, do that thing, like, follow, because we're just bringing you some information. Oh, this water clarity on this lake is pretty stained. It's maybe you can see down about a foot. Bright sunny day, but the fish are stacked up in the shade still in shallower water. They're in about 3 feet of water right at the ends of docks, boat lifts, things of that nature. But that's also because there's a little lack of weeds or real structure on this body of water. So man-made structure is really good. Water temperatures are in the upper 70s. We're probably going to flirt with 80, especially next week. But yeah, you obviously saw a little success, a little bit of fishing, and yeah, hit the share button on this too if you could. And we'll see you in the future.